Glasspads are rising in popularity over the last years, and that's why I decided to make this video, which should inform you about what Glasspad actually is, what are its pros and cons, and if I personally would advise you to buy one. So let's get into it. This is a more of a generalized video, so if you're an enthusiast you probably already know all of this stuff, but nowadays Glasspads aren't anything niche anymore or as hard to get as they were years ago. We practically only had Skypad back then, and that was it. Today there are countless of brands that offer them, and not only the ones that are more enthusiast focused, but also mainstream and easy to get ones like Moonstone from Asus or Atlas from Razer. What I have to strongly emphasize though is, as with cloth pads, same goes for glass, and that's that it's not only something you put on a desk and use as a better surface for a mouse glide, it's about much more, and that's what this video is gonna be about. The absolute basics are that it's made out of tempered glass, so you have to expect a bit of discomfort. It's a hard pad, which won't give you any option of pressing into it and therefore manipulate the glide speed. If you're used to softer pads into which you can actually press and slow the glide off, or you also have your mousepad as something to improve your comfort during gaming, this is definitely not it. I already mentioned glide speed, and that's another very important point. If you were previously used to slower control pads, hell, even balanced pads where you could stop on a dime, you're gonna have a bit of, let's say, adjustment period. Yes, right now I'm really generalizing because there are a bit slower and a bit faster glass pads, but in general, you could say that Glasspads are fast pads with minimal friction during any movements, therefore minimal help from the surface itself. The most basic example of this is a simple double click on a desktop. With regular, slower pad, you just go and double click an icon, but not with glass, because then you have to really concentrate on the click itself, because even a slightest move can move your cursor away. Yes, that's definitely a bit of a stretch, but at least you can get my point. Using a glass pad really requires a lot of mouse control, and that's why it's first, not the best option for everybody, and second, really for somebody who's either determined to work on their mouse control or very determined to lower their sensitivity to a point where the glide speed won't really affect them. But why would you then use a glass pad if not for speed? Well, actually, there are a few other reasons why. First, of course, is the mentioned speed, because you're not gonna get anything this fast anywhere else. Second, very important one, is consistency, because what else is gonna offer you better consistency than a hard material, which essentially lasts forever. With cloth pads, we're talking humidity, which can affect the pad, dust and debris, which will find its way in between the fibers, and even wear and tear, because cloth will get worn down over time. You essentially don't have to worry about any of those with glass. And the third, very natural thing is the said durability. It's glass, and if you're not trying to damage it, it can last ages more than cloth, which would need replacement after prolonged use. With glass, you take a glass cleaner, wipe it with a cloth, and it's clean in seconds. But on the other hand, there are a few things why glass isn't ideal. The fast cleaning is great, but it's not only because it's fast, but also because you're gonna be doing it a lot, and sometimes even in between games. Because it's a hard material, any specks of dust, anything, you're gonna immediately feel it the moment you glide over it with your mouse, and if not feel, you will definitely hear it. That's why sometimes during my gaming sessions I have to wipe the pad or the bottom of the mouse at least with a hand, because dust always finds its way on there. And as positive the speed can be, it can also be a big negative, but you're already aware of that. I've mentioned it a bunch of times, so let's get to the next two very important negatives. One of them is that even though you're saving a bunch of money not having to repurchase mousepads over and over, the skates on your mouse are gonna take the beating. For some people it might take 3 or 6 months to replace the skates, but for some even a month or 2 are gonna feel enough. The best way to counteract this negative is to buy a few packs of dot skates, which are very affordable, and you get a lot of use time of a single pack. And the last thing, for some even the biggest deal breaker, is the material itself. It's glass, and you know how sticky glass can be, so that's exactly what's gonna happen with your skin. I personally started using gaming sleeves the moment I started using Glasspads, because it's just better. The glass really taught me to wear a sleeve, and I've continued to do so even with my cloth pads. For some people, having to wear a sleeve to get the most and the best experience out of a glass pad is simply too big of an ask, and I can understand that. I'll sum it all up now, and for the few people that are still interested in my personal experience, I'll talk a bit after. My personal opinion about glass pads is that if you want a very durable mousepad and you don't fear having to work on your mouse control, Glasspad is a great tool which I'd advise everyone to at least try once and really decide for themselves if it's worth it. But if you rank comfort really high, don't wanna keep on changing skates or suffer having to fight with the speed of the pad, just skip it altogether, because there's probably a cloth variant already waiting for you. But if you're interested in my longer term experience, I gave myself a personal challenge at the start of the year to use only a glass pad for both gaming and work, and spoiler alert, I kinda failed. Is it because glass is bad? Definitely not. In my case, where I'm able to switch between a lot of mousepads, I can really weigh my pluses and minuses, and after a month of use, I decided cloth is just better for me. I use this glass pad for not only tracking heavy games, where it really frees up your mouse movement, but also for tacfps like CS or Valorant, and there I could really feel my own shortcomings in mouse control. I suffer from shaky hands by default, and then having to fight with static clicking, which really cost me a lot of concentration, was just tiring. Many times when I watched back my own gameplay, I could see I was missing a lot simply because I was unable to stay steadily on a target when clicking. If I add to it my work in Resolve, where sometimes I really had to concentrate on precise clicks, it was simply too much for me. I could solve the issue by swapping pads for different types of games or use cases, but I like to test stuff the way you would probably use them, and most of you, I guess, don't wanna have 20 pads on hand just to do that. So, what I said still remains. I gave you a few personal thoughts about Glasspads, and now you can individually decide if it is or isn't worth trying. And if you like the video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Here, check out another one, and I'll see you again next Friday. Bye!